They told me the house was old but never mentioned the whispers in the night. They warned me about the creaky stairs, not the soft sobbing from below. They said the basement was off limits, locked for my own safety. Last night I heard a girl's voice call my name from behind that door. I never wanted to move into that house. Not because it was ancient, or because it sat like a forgotten relic at the edge of town, but because everything about it felt wrong. From the moment we pulled up the cracked driveway, something cold settled in my bones. My parents were too busy talking about square footage and charm to notice. I, on the other hand, couldn't stop staring at the basement window, the only one covered in soot-stained boards from the inside. We moved in during a dying September afternoon. The air was hot, but the house itself was unnaturally cool. Not the kind of cool that comes from good insulation or thick walls, but a deeper, more chilling kind. As if the house had been empty for too long and had started swallowing up warmth and light and laughter. I didn't say anything. I never do. I've always been the quiet one, observant. Some call it anxiety. I call it instinct. The first night passed uneventfully, except for the sound, a thump, soft and hollow, coming from the basement. I chalked it up to old pipes or shifting wood. That's what these houses do, right? They groan. They settle. They make noises. But this was different. It was a deliberate sound. A knock. Then silence. Then another. 3 knocks. Spaced. Apart. Precise. The next morning over breakfast, I asked my dad if he heard anything. He laughed and shook his head. "This place talks, kiddo. Get used to it." My mom shot him a look. "Don't scare him," she said, sipping her coffee. "It's just old bones creaking." But later that day, I saw something that made my stomach tighten. In the basement door, an old heavy thing with rusted hinges and a thick deadbolt, there were scratches. Not random animal scratches. No, these were lines, tallies, counted, measured, 32 tallies etched with something sharp, a nail maybe, or a piece of glass. I asked about the door. My dad shrugged. "It stays locked," he said. "Previous owners didn't want anyone down there. Said it's not safe. Old structure, rotting beams." My mom added, "We keep it shut. It's for your own safety." That night, I stayed awake, longer than usual. My room was directly above the basement. I watched the shadows stretch across the floor, like they were reaching for something, or someone. Then, at exactly 2:14 a.m., I heard it, a voice. Soft, whispering, a girl's voice. "Hello," she said, just once. And then silence. I sat up in bed, heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. I stared at the floorboards beneath me as if they could somehow confirm what I'd heard. But there was nothing. Just the hum of the old ceiling fan and the whisper of wind against the window. For a long time, I told myself it was a dream. A fragment of imagination stirred by the new house, by all the change. But deep down, I knew better. The next morning, I was exhausted. My eyes felt like sandpaper, and my mind replayed the voice over and over. "Hello?" Just that. It sounded young. Around my age, maybe a little older, not frightened, just patient, as if she'd been waiting. At breakfast, I looked at my parents. They seemed oblivious, already settled into the new house like they'd been here for years. I hesitated, but asked anyway. "Has anyone ever said something about the basement being haunted?" My dad scoffed into his eggs. "Ghost stories already? Come on, we've been here a day." But my mom's reaction was different. She paused for just a second. Not long, but enough for me to notice. Her eyes flicked to my father, then back, to her plate. "No, sweetie," she said. "Just creaky old pipes, that's all." That was the moment I realized something was off. My mom doesn't lie, not well anyway. And that pause told me everything. She knew something. Later that day, while they were out getting groceries, I tried the basement door, locked, just like they said. I crouched and peered through the gap underneath. It was dark. Too dark for a place that should have faint ambient light bleeding in from basement windows. The air that drifted through was cold, damp, and carried something else with it. Something I couldn't name, not rot, not mold, something older. That night I stayed up again. 2:14 a.m. I didn't have to wait long. Hello? The voice came again. This time, there was more. Is someone there? I didn't answer. I didn't move. I barely breathed. She spoke again, a little louder. Please, I don't want to be alone anymore. It was the kind of voice that made you want to help, the kind that tugged at your instincts. She didn't sound dangerous. She sounded sad. But even as I sat there frozen, something inside me whispered, "Don't speak." The next few days, the routine continued. Each night, 2:14 a.m., the voice would come. Sometimes just once, sometimes for a full minute. Always soft, always the same. Hello? Please, don't leave me alone. I stopped sleeping altogether. Shadows grew under my eyes. At school, I barely paid attention. All I could think about was the girl in the basement. My curiosity started turning into obsession. Who was she? Why was she down there? And why, above all, were my parents hiding it? I finally confronted them. We were sitting in the living room after dinner. I waited for a quiet moment, then said, "There's someone in the basement." My mom stiffened. My dad looked up from his phone. "Excuse me?" he said, trying to smile but failing. "A girl. She talks to me every night, around 2. She says she doesn't want to be alone." Dead silence. Then my dad stood up, slowly. "We told you not to go near the basement," he said. His voice was calm, but I saw the tension in his neck. "It's dangerous down there, structurally unsound." I stood too. "Then why is there a voice? Why is someone calling for help?" "There's no one down there," he said. End of discussion. But end of discussion, he barked, and that was the first time I'd ever seen fear in my father's eyes. Later that night, I woke up to whispering again. But this time, it wasn't from the floorboards. It was from right outside my door. I crept out of bed, opened the door a crack, and looked into the hallway. My parents were standing in front of the basement door, whispering to each other in low, urgent tones. My mom kept glancing over her shoulder toward the stairs. My dad was holding something, a large iron key. I slipped back into bed before they noticed me, my heart racing. The next morning, the key was gone. And the voice that night? It said, my name, Evan. Clear, soft, deliberate, not like before. Not a whisper, not an echo. It was like she was right beneath me, calling straight through the floorboards. I bolted upright. The air was ice cold. The shadows on the walls twisted in waves. That didn't make sense. Something shifted in the house. I swear I felt the floor swell, like the house had taken a deep breath. Then, from beneath, "Please, just talk to me." This time, I whispered back, "Who are you?" Silence. Then a faint giggle. Not playful, not joyful, mocking. I knew you'd talk eventually. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. After I whispered to her, after I broke the one rule, the house changed. Not visibly, not in any way I could prove. But it felt different, like something ancient had rolled over in its sleep, stirred by the sound of my voice. The walls seemed closer, the silence thicker, and the basement door, I couldn't stop staring at it. That morning, I tried to pretend everything was normal. I helped with breakfast. I went to school. But the moment I came home, I noticed it, the key. My father must have forgotten to take it. It was sitting in a glass dish near the hallway, half buried under some old junk mail. I stared at it for a long time. And then, without fully meaning to, I took it I kept it in my pocket all day, the cold metal pressing into my leg like a guilty secret. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I had to understand what was happening, who she was, why she was down there, why my parents were lying to me. That night, I waited. 14 a.m., right on time. Evan. I held my breath. You came back. I sat on the floor right above the basement door. I could feel the cold rising through the wood. Who are you? I whispered again. Someone like you. Trapped. Forgotten. Please, let me out. Her voice was different now. Still. Soft, still sad, but there was a smile underneath it. Something sharper hiding behind her words. I pulled out the key. My hand shook. I don't know if I should. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "It's okay. I would never hurt you. You're the first one who's listened." The house creaked. A long, groaning sound, like a weight shifting just below me. The air turned sour like wet iron and ash. Then something pressed up against the floorboards, a soft, unmistakable thump, like a hand knocking from underneath. My blood turned to ice. "I'm so cold," she whispered. "Please, just open the door. Just crack it." I stood. Slowly. The key felt impossibly heavy. I walked down the stairs barefoot, each step groaning louder than the last. The basement door loomed ahead, swollen in the dark. I put the key in the lock. It turned with a slow, deliberate click. My hand was on the handle. Behind me, the hallway light flickered. Once, twice. Then I heard it. A second voice. Not hers. This one was dry, distant, older. It came from the top of the stairs, a rasp just above a whisper. "Don't open that door." I spun around, heart racing, but no one was there. The hallway was empty. The lights had gone out. I turned back toward the basement. The door was slightly open. I hadn't moved it. On the other side, only black, thick, waiting. Then, something moved inside. And that's when I realized the voice calling to me each night, it might not even be human. I slammed the door shut, locked it, and ran back to my room. The whispering didn't stop. Not that night, not the next. But now, the voice no longer begged, it laughed. I didn't go to school the next day. I told my parents I was sick and they didn't argue. Maybe they could see it in my face, how pale I'd gotten, the circles under my eyes, how every sound made me flinch. My father barely looked at me. My mother hovered, offering soup I didn't eat and tea I didn't touch. No one mentioned the basement. No one asked about the key. And I didn't tell them I'd used it. But I kept thinking about the voice, the one that warned me. It was dry, brittle, as if it came from a throat that hadn't spoken in years. It wasn't the girl's voice. It hadn't been pleading. It had been a command. One that cut straight through the air and into my bones. Someone, or something else, was in that house, and it didn't want the door open. The lock still worked. I checked it at least 20 times that morning, hand trembling on the doorknob. I pushed on the door once, lightly, just to make sure it held. It didn't budge. Still, I could feel something waiting behind it. Not watching exactly, just aware. Like the basement had a pulse now, faint and steady, like a second heartbeat in the walls. I stayed in my room the rest of the day. Curtains drawn, lights off. I kept the key tucked in my sock drawer, wrapped in a shirt so it wouldn't rattle. Every few minutes, I found myself glancing toward the floorboards, listening. At first, there was only silence. But by noon, I started hearing her again. The girl. She was humming. A soft, repetitive tune, barely audible. Like a lullaby, only not. One I recognized. It looped every few minutes, just the same 8 or 9 notes, fragile and haunting. Sometimes she paused. Sometimes she sighed. Then she'd start again, her voice floating up through the floor like fog through cracks in stone. At 2:14 a.m., she spoke. "Evan." I was already awake. I hadn't slept a second. "Why'd you lock the door?" she asked, her voice as smooth as silk. "I thought we were talking. I thought you wanted to help." I didn't answer. "You opened it. You were so close I could feel your hand." Still, I said nothing. "I'm sorry if I scared you. I haven't seen anyone in so long." The room was cold. Not from the weather. From her. "I can tell you things," she whispered. "Things your parents won't. Things about the house. About what's really going on." Something creaked beneath my bed. I jerked upright. "It's not what you think, Evan. I'm not the only one down here. I'm not the one you should be afraid of." The humming returned then, low and trembling. I covered my ears. But I still heard it. Somehow, I always did. The next morning, my mother was waiting for me in the kitchen. She had that forced brightness in her face, the kind she used when something was terribly wrong, but she didn't want to talk about it. "Your father's going to be away for a few days," she said without looking at me. "Business trip. He doesn't travel for work." She poured herself a cup of coffee, her hands shaking. "It's a sudden thing. Just came up." I didn't press her. She wouldn't tell me the truth. Not yet. When she left the room, I went back to the hallway. I touched the basement doorknob again. Still cold, still locked, still alive. That night, she didn't wait until 2:14. She started whispering around midnight. "You should come down here," she said sweetly. "It's warmer, quieter. No one lies to you down here." I curled into bed, clutching my pillow. "Don't you want answers?" she asked. "Don't you want to know what your parents did?" The question cut deeper than it should have. Because I did want to know. I wanted to know. Why they moved us here so suddenly, why my mom lied, why my dad kept flinching at shadows like something was always just behind him, and the girl, whatever she was, knew it. "The truth's in the basement," she sang. "You just have to come find it." I lasted another day, maybe 2. I stopped, counting. The house felt heavier every hour, like it was pressing in from all sides. My mother barely spoke. My father didn't call. And the girl kept whispering. Not just at night, not just from the floor. She started showing up in the mirrors, not clearly, not completely, just hints. A flash of pale skin, dark hair behind my shoulder, a reflection that didn't quite match my movements. I looked once while brushing my teeth and saw her standing halfway down the stairs in the mirror's corner. But when I turned around, the staircase was empty. She never blinked, never smiled, just watched, and I couldn't stop watching back. By the end of the week, something inside me broke. I waited until my mom went to bed. Then I got the key. I didn't bother turning on the lights. I moved through the dark like I'd done it 100 times. Every floorboard knew my weight by now. I stopped in front of the basement door. The key slid in easily. Too easily. I hesitated. She whispered again. "Please." I opened the door. The smell hit first. Damp earth, rust, and something like burnt hair. A stairwell led down into complete blackness. The light switch on the wall didn't work. My phone flashlight barely pierced the gloom. Still, I stepped down. The wood creaked beneath me. Each step felt longer than the last, like the staircase stretched the deeper I went. I counted them. 7, 10, 15, 20. No basement should be this deep. I kept going. My breath misted in front of me. The walls pulsed faintly, like they were breathing. And then I saw her. She wasn't what I expected. She wasn't a ghost, exactly. But she wasn't human either. She stood in the center of the basement, or what I thought was the basement. The room stretched far beyond what the house could hold. Her hair was long, soaked, clinging to her face. Her eyes were enormous, glassy and black, like something that had never seen sunlight. Her skin was pale, stretched thin, almost translucent in places. She smiled when she saw me. "You made it," she said. "I was starting to think you wouldn't." I tried to speak, but no sound came out. She tilted her head. "You look just like him." I frowned. "Like who?" I finally managed. She didn't answer. Instead, she pointed behind her, and that's when I saw the cages. Hundreds of them, some rusted shut, some still open. And inside, bones. Small ones, human ones. I stumbled, backward. Her smile widened. "You wanted the truth, Evan," she whispered. "Here it is." A sound echoed from the far side of the chamber. Footsteps. Not hers. Slow, heavy, dragging something metallic. She didn't move. She didn't even look. "He's awake now," she said, "and he's very, very hungry." I turned and ran up the stairs, 2 at a time, nearly slipping. The walls screamed around me. Something chased me. Something massive, its breath hot on my neck. I reached the top and slammed the door. I locked it. I nailed it shut. I pushed furniture in front of it. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Not with her still humming beneath the floor, not with him waiting in the dark, and now I understood. The rule wasn't about the girl. The rule was about what she'd bring with her, and I broke it. For the next 3 nights, I didn't sleep. Not because I wasn't tired. God, I was exhausted. But because I couldn't. Something had changed. The humming never stopped now. Not even during the day. It bled through the walls, the floors, the ceiling. It followed me from room to room. It was in the pipes when I ran the faucet. It echoed through the vents when the heat kicked on. Wherever I went, she was there. The girl in the basement. Only now she wasn't asking to be let out, she was waiting. I tried to tell my mom. I really did. I sat her down at the kitchen table with every intention of coming clean. I was ready to say it all. That I opened the basement door. That I saw her, that I saw them, the cages, the bones, the thing in the dark that dragged chains behind it like a tail. I was ready to confess that I broke the rule. But when I looked at my mother's face, really looked, I knew it wouldn't matter. She already knew. There were tiny details I'd missed before. How she never went near that end of the hallway. How she always turned up the radio at night, just loud enough to drown something out. How her hands trembled when she thought no one was watching. She was afraid, not confused, not concerned. Afraid. Of what? Of her? Or of what would happen now? That I'd spoken to her? That afternoon, I dug through the garage until I found a hammer and a dozen rusted nails. I went back to the basement door and reinforced the boards I'd already hammered across it. I added 2 more wooden planks and a heavy steel chain I looped 3 times through the handle. It didn't feel like enough. Nothing ever did. That night, she didn't whisper to me. She laughed. Not loud, not manic, just soft and steady, like a child giggling at a joke no one else could hear. It echoed up through the vents and into the corners of the house. It came from beneath the sink, from under my bed, from inside the closet door that hadn't creaked in years until now. She was spreading. I left every light on, every door open. I didn't blink for hours, and still, I heard her say, "He's looking for you now, Evan. He likes when they fight." I didn't know who he was. I didn't want to find out, but the next day I got a clue. It came in the form of a letter, handwritten. No return address. The paper was yellowed and folded 4 times, stuffed in an unmarked envelope sitting in the mailbox, like it had always been there. I opened it slowly, half expecting it to vanish or burst into flames. It didn't. It read, "You spoke to her. That was your first mistake. Do not make the second. He wakes when she is heard. He feeds when she is believed. He grows when she is followed. You opened the door. Now he will open you." Below the message was a symbol, a crude, circular shape. with 4 jagged marks running through it like claw slashes. I recognized it. It was carved into one of the cages in the basement. Someone had been down there before me. Someone else had heard her voice, and they didn't make it out. I stared at that letter until the words blurred. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I tucked the paper under my mattress and didn't tell anyone. I don't know why. Maybe I was scared of sounding crazy, or maybe I was starting to believe I wasn't. The next day, my mom left. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't pack. I just woke up, and her car was gone. Her purse, her phone, her jacket, all still in the kitchen. No note, no message, nothing. Just silence and the sound of humming beneath the floor. I searched the house top to bottom. I called her name until my throat ached. No answer. Not from inside, not from outside. I tried calling my dad, but his number went straight to voicemail. It was just me now, me and her. That night, something worse happened. The boards over the basement door were gone. No sign of them, no broken wood, no loose nails, just a clean, untouched door with the lock removed and the chain unhooked, lying coiled neatly on the floor like someone had unwound it gently. And the door, it was open. Not wide, just an inch, just enough to see the darkness breathing on the other side. I didn't run. I didn't scream. I couldn't. My legs refused to move. Then something moved behind the door, slowly, deliberately, and I heard that other voice again. Not hers. The dry one. Only this time, it wasn't a warning. It said one word. Down. The doorknob turned without. My hand on it, and the door opened 2 more inches. I turned and fled. I don't remember getting to my room. I don't remember locking the door, even though I know I did. What I do remember is the whisper that came next. Not through the floor, but from inside my closet. I'm not in the basement anymore. I didn't sleep. I didn't blink. I sat in the corner with a kitchen knife and a flashlight whose battery slowly died around 4 a.m., and I listened, not to her, but to the thing breathing behind the closet door. The girl. She was never the threat. She was the lure, the bait. Whatever's in this house, whatever my parents kept locked in that basement, it was never meant to be seen, never meant to be let out, and I did both. I didn't open the closet door that night. I couldn't. I don't know if it would have made a difference. Maybe it already wasn't a door anymore. Maybe it was a mouth, a throat. Maybe the house had changed and the girl had changed it. Maybe I had changed it. The humming stopped for the first time in days. That terrified me more than the sound ever had. It was replaced by breathing, deep, animal, endless, like 1,000 lungs stacked in layers, exhaling all at once. It didn't come from a single place. It came from the walls, the light bulbs, the ceiling fan that didn't move anymore. The whole house breathed like it had just been born. I sat in the corner until the sun came up, my eyes burning, the knife clenched so tightly in my hand it left grooves in my palm. I didn't dare move, didn't dare speak. I just listened and counted. 327 breaths. Then silence, but not peace. Nothing had changed. Not really. When I finally stood up, the floor groaned beneath my feet like it was warning me, like it didn't want to carry me anymore. My bedroom door had warped overnight. It took force to open. The hallway was darker than usual, the wallpaper peeling slightly around the seams like something had been licking at the glue from the inside. I didn't go to the kitchen. I didn't eat. I just walked. The house felt like a husk, abandoned but not empty. Furniture stood where it had always been, but off-kilter now, crooked by just a few inches, like the house had shifted under it. The air was heavy with damp and dust, and something else. That scorched hair smell again. Stronger. I passed the door. To the basement, still cracked open, still breathing. I didn't stop. I walked straight out the front door and into the daylight, barefoot and trembling. I didn't look back. Not until I reached the street corner, and when I did, the house wasn't there. The lot was empty, just grass, dirt, and a rusted mailbox. No roof, no walls, no porch, no home, just gone. I stumbled backward, rubbed my eyes, blinked, still gone. The neighbor's house stood quiet and untouched. The street was silent. The sun was too bright, too hot. I turned in a slow circle, trying to make sense of it, trying to figure out if this was some sort of dream or trick or mental collapse. That's when I heard her again, Evan, right behind me. I spun, knife raised. No one, but the shadows under the tree nearest me were too deep, too thick. They didn't belong to the leaves. They pulsed. "I'm not in the house anymore," she whispered. "Neither is he." I ran. Back, across the street, through other people's yards, past barking dogs that suddenly fell silent as I passed. I didn't stop until I reached the local church. It was the only place in town that felt older than the house had. And even it didn't feel safe anymore, just less dangerous. I burst through the doors. The priest was inside. He'd known my family. My father had cleaned the floors here once. My mother sang in the choir when I was little. He looked up from the pews, startled. "Evan," he said, "what happened to you?" I told him everything, or I tried to. I spoke for nearly 20 minutes straight, tripping over my words, weeping by the end of it. About the girl, the voice, the thing in the basement, my mom disappearing, the house vanishing, the letter, the cages, the mirror. He didn't flinch, didn't even look surprised. When I finished, he nodded slowly. I warned them when they moved. "In," he said softly. "Your parents." My blood ran cold. "What?" He stood and walked toward the altar, pulled out an old, dust-covered book bound in leather and twine. He opened it carefully. "Your house was built over an old foundation," he said. "One that didn't belong to any church, not any I know of. But something was worshipped there." "What?" "She's not a girl," he said. "She used to be, but not anymore. She became a gate, a voice with no mouth, a lure. The thing in the basement? That's what she's tied to, what she feeds, what feeds through her." He turned the book toward me. The symbol was there, the one from the letter, the claw-mark circle. I stepped back. "It's a harvesting mark," the priest said. "Old magic, the kind that grows in silence, in secrecy. She sings to draw you close. He waits to tear you open." I was shaking. "Then why didn't you stop us?" "I tried, but your father had already made a deal." My stomach twisted. "What kind of deal?" He looked at me with sad eyes. "The kind that needs blood to work. A house built to hold something, and a child offered to listen." The air collapsed around me. "You mean—" "Yes, he offered you. And the moment you heard her voice, it began. It always begins with listening." I sat down. My legs wouldn't hold me anymore. "All those nights I heard her," I whispered. "All those whispers. They weren't mistakes. They were rituals." He nodded. "It's not about belief. It's about attention. And now, it's too late." I stood up. "No, I can stop this. There has to be a way." "There's only one," he said. "Seal the door again, with blood and silence." "What does that mean?" He handed me the book. "You already know," he said. "You just haven't admitted it yet." I took the book and left. By the time I got back to the lot, the house was back. Exactly as I left it, as if it had never vanished. But something was different. The door was wide open now. The girl stood in the hallway smiling. "Welcome home," she whispered, and behind her something moved, a shape that didn't walk. It dripped upward, crawled along the ceiling, long arms, no eyes, mouth like an open wound. He was awake. I didn't hesitate. I stepped inside. The floor closed behind me. I walked to the basement door, opened it all the way. The darkness waited. The girl followed. "So brave," she said softly, "but not smart." "I didn't come to talk," I said. "I came to end this." I opened the book. Read the words written in blood. The girl screamed. The house screamed. The air turned black and fireless. I bit my thumb until it bled. Smeared. It on the floor in the shape of the mark. The thing behind her lunged. I didn't stop. I recited the names written in the margins, names of the others who'd heard her, who'd opened the door, who didn't survive. Their voices joined mine. The door to the basement didn't close. It folded in on itself, collapsed into a point, and vanished. The girl screamed one last time, then silence. Real silence. No humming, no breathing, no voices. Just me. I was alone in the hallway again. No house, no parents, just dirt and light and freedom. Maybe. Because sometimes, even now, when I close my eyes, I hear her voice again, and she whispers, "You listened." If you think the story ends here, think again. Some horrors don't fade when the screen goes dark, they just begin.